there's this recent activity section. And so this is explaining to you when it's last run and like what it was that triggered it. So you can see I've had a busy morning here. I've already had 3 meetings, and after each meeting, the agent's been triggered and it's run. And so you can click on these and it will open up and show you like what happened in that call, not the call itself, but in this case, like it's describing the actions that the AI took and the work that it did. Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Notion in Practice podcast. We have a really different and exciting episode for you today. We're looking at custom agents, which are soon to be released by Notion. And if you're lucky enough, you might have already seen them appear in your workspace, but we have had early access and been playing with them for the last couple of months. So I wanted to demo to you the kinds of things we built and start exploring some of those use cases. What do you think, Jerwin?
Yeah, well, we're super duper excited. And I think, Tim, like us talking at the Melbourne and the Sydney events to people, it's something that's super hyped up right now. And so I feel very privileged to be, one, that we had early access, and now 2, we get to actually show how we've been using it in practice.
Absolutely. So I feel like to be able to understand custom agents, you sort of need to take a step back and understand how does AI inside Notion work at all. Because I think for a bunch of people, they might not be in a plan where they have regular access to it, so they're using it.
Mm-hmm.
And even just, not everybody spends their days nerding out in Notion like we do. And so they're kind of busy doing their actual work and they haven't had the chance to kind of plumb the depths of what's possible with, the native kind of AI and the tool. So perhaps I'll share my screen and we can just start showing people some of the ways we've been using it.
Yeah. And while you get your screen sharing, Tim, what do you think the differences are between 3.0 and custom agents? Because, I think we both had that conversation with people at both the Melbourne Notion event and the Sydney event, and there's a bit of confusion about it. So I guess could you define it for the person that's listening right now? They're thinking about using all these Notion AI tools, but they don't know where to begin.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think the key thing about custom agents is that they are able to be triggered and they can run autonomously. So they can run on their own in the background. That's probably the biggest difference. They have a lot of the same capabilities as the general AI. But the fact that they're kind of a mix between automations and AI, really. We'll get right into that. We'll have a look at the different kinds of triggers.
Let's go.
And the different sorts of things it can do. So,
awesome.
This is probably the interface that people are used to seeing when they're thinking about Notion AI. This is the sort of full page up in the top left-hand corner here. And you're really able to chat with this AI, just like for a lot of people, it's a bit like how they've used ChatGPT or Claude for a long time. You can choose the model that you want to use. And you can do things like, say, only focus on, this section of my workspace, or talk to the help, or you can connect other apps. You can do things like add images, use research mode. There's sort of a bunch of features like that you can explore with this, but you really just have a back and forth conversation with the AI here sitting inside your workspace. Do you use this full screen view very much, Jerwin?
Actually, I don't. I should, but I usually have it layered with other tabs. So like Notion is sort of just floating around, but yeah, that's a good tip that I just learned. So thank you, Tim. I usually use that.
Sometimes, sorry,
I use that chat that you just put up more so.
Yeah. And I think this is the default for me too, although sometimes I've realized that I don't actually need the context of what's on the screen and I just want to have a conversation with the AI, still about the context that's in my workspace. But I just want that to be the complete focus. Yeah. So for a lot of people, this is what you would use sort of all the time. And you'll notice when you pop it out that it instantly gets the context of the page that you're on here. So it knows sort of specifically this is what we're focused on. This AI has been really powerful, uses the latest models. One of the key things about it that people haven't always realized but should be doing is personalizing it.
Yes.
So that's more than just a name and a mustache. You can set your instructions page. And so for me, that's this page here. This is my guy's name's Al, because when AI was first released, my partner and I really thought that everyone was writing and talking about some guy called Al. And so forever onwards, AI is going to be Al to us. But you're able to set custom instructions. And I think if you've played with ChatGPT's custom instructions, then you've got a bit of a sense of what's going on here. But because this is inside your Notion workspace, you actually have, I guess, a lot more context that you can point the AI at rather than just, I want you to behave this way. I want you to be called this. So
Yeah.
if we just have a quick flick through mine, have you got these set up, Jerwin?
I do. Thank you. These are awesome playbooks. So if you guys have been listening since episode 1 or 2, we have a nice episode on these playbooks, Tim, and also a resource that you guys can access. I think if you look it up now on the Notion Marketplace, you can find it as well. So thank you, Tim, for that.
Yeah, I got my act together and put it up as a
Yeah.
template on the marketplace. Yeah, so these personalized instructions, there's a lot of ways that you can set them up. And I think the key thing to do is actually to talk to the AI about how it's best given instructions.
Mm-hmm.
These are not instructions for us humans, they're instructions for the AI. So a lot of my conversation with the AI while building these was saying to it, hey, I want you to behave this way. How can I give you instructions so that you can best do that?
Yeah.
Slightly odd thing to do, but once you get into it, it makes a lot of sense. And so I've just got these different sections, you can see sort of in the table of contents here. So a priority hierarchy helps the AI not get confused if you give it conflicting sets of instructions.
Yes.
It knows what to take first. I'm experimenting, and we might bump into this a little bit later, about some ambient context, like so that it understands some other things that are going on for me, meetings that I've got that day, tasks that are due, those sorts of things. We've got these operating principles, which are try and keep to sort of a short list, but this sort of, I like to think about it as defining the character of the AI. It's sort of the type of personality that it has. And then you get into more things like, the personality and voice. So
like
I've got some funny things in here. Mine, I like it when it swears at me. I like it when it sort of pumps up my tires and keeps me feeling positive about the situation. I like it when it tries to be funny. And so, you kind of load this up and then experiment with it and see what happens over time. Then I've got some really strict rules, and this bit has grown the more I've played with it. But you can see, some of them are really simple, like don't set icons when you create pages. I don't like that, so I ask it not to. Others of them are a bit more detailed about, when I want you to take this idea and really run with it. There's a bunch of stuff in there about approval and different areas that it works in. So these are good, and it really respects those. And then down the bottom, got some of the things that I think are probably more key than those top ones. And something like this data map. All these databases are databases in my workspace that hold critical information. And so I'm able to say, this is where projects live. So it doesn't get confused by anything else that might be called projects. It knows this is where the projects are. So I would strongly suggest people put one of these together. They're really simple. And of course, you can get the AI to build it for you. And then finally, the playbooks that Jerwin was referring to earlier, which are sort of sets of instructions that help the AI take a multi-step approach to, I need to do this job for you. And so the classic one for me would be this meeting follow-up. That is a whole set of instructions that says when, you're tasked with following up a meeting, this is what you do. This is the scope of it. These are the inputs. If you've learnt about prompting and you know things about prompting, this is where you can use your prompting wizardry. Yeah. And so it has the steps that it needs to do. It has what the outputs should look like in the end, any kind of approval steps. I'll give it an example. So my personalized instructions kind of hold all of that. And these instructions, I think what's important to understand is every time you talk to the AI, it looks at these first and then works out how to respond. So these are really critical. And if you're not using these, this would be the first thing. Don't even worry about custom agents yet. Build yourself some personalized instructions so that your AI starts to behave in, I think consistent, reliable ways. You'll get a lot better results if you give it this level of insight about who you are and what you need to do.
That's fantastic, Tim. Thanks for sharing. I feel like for those who are just starting out, if you're feeling overwhelmed, definitely check out the playbook instructions that we have. Well, I'll put it back on this show notes here, but to start off like that. But then Tim, if you have someone that's been on Notion or an organization that's been on Notion, they have thousands and thousands of private pages. How do you recommend that they start to you saw they had the database mappings, but what happens if someone's got a database mapping of private pages that are just completely everywhere across every single team? Is there a best practice to do that?
Yeah, look, I think the AI is very clever. And so it does a pretty good job at guessing as it looks across your workspace, what you're talking about. But you will get much, much better results if you do centralize your information in kind of key databases and then you tell the AI about it. So if we just have a look in our workspace here, all of these are different databases in our workspace. So we've thought really carefully about the structure of our information and what
Mhm.
connects to what and how does it all look. And so
Mhm.
each of these is a database that's related to others.
Mhm.
And the AI, that's what that data map was. It was telling it about this page and about
Yes.
all of the data that's spread across the workspace. I mean, everyone worries about AI hallucinating and AI slop and those kinds of things. That is much reduced. I would say like the output of my experience with Notion AI is incredibly high quality because it's not really guessing. When
Yeah.
I say, you know, help me write this proposal, it has a list of examples of previous proposals. It's got instructions about how I like to write, about the
Mhm.
services that we offer. It's got the client's meeting notes, and all
Mm.
of those things are structured here in this workspace.
Yeah.
And so it's not guessing about any of those things. So if you have a workspace that's just got pages everywhere and there's not a lot of structure to it, I think you would expect to find that your AI does as good a job as it can do, but you're
Yeah.
you're not giving it a leg up. It's a good question though, and I think a bunch of people have said to me, "Oh, like it seems a bit dumb, like it doesn't understand." I think it's not dumb; it's just not being given clear guidance, and you really have to give it clear guidance if you want really smart
Yeah.
outcomes from it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Well, thanks for that, Tim. It's very useful advice just for the audience. What was the first custom agent you'd like to showcase to the audience?
Yeah, so I think the thing about the custom agents is, we talked just briefly about these playbooks.
Mhm.
The playbooks, the concept there is really we want that AI not just to answer a question for us or go and do some research for us. We want it to do some work for us. We want it to
Mhm.
take steps through a process to get an outcome. And so this is very much, I guess, the enactment of that idea that the AI is going to be a co-worker. It's going to
Mm.
actually be able to be in the workspace doing work while you're not. And before we had custom agents, you could ask the AI, hey, please follow up this client call and have
Mm.
a sort of a chat with it. And then it would go off and do some work for you.
Mhm.
Now with the custom agents, you can trigger that to happen automatically. So a good example probably is for me, this like meeting follow up,
Meeting follow up.
which I think, Joe, and you have a version of this as well, don't you? Where the AI, you basically, something happens that triggers it, and then it goes off and starts to do the follow up work after a call that perhaps you were doing before.
Mhm. Mhm. I do, and I really like your example of first build it out on like play around with it with the playbook, get the ongoing rhythm going, and then from there build a custom agent around that. Just because you know that there's an actual use case there, it's actually going to save you that time and hassle. And yeah, I do have a meeting follow up that I do is. As a marketer, it's you have so many meetings and so many actions and so many tasks. You talk to product, you talk to sales, you talk to customers, and there's so many actions that happen from that. And so for me, I do a meeting follow up that sort of doesn't do follow up. It sort of just does task tracking accountability for me. And so we can walk through that after, but I really want to see how you set this one up, Tim, though. It's like meeting follow up.
Yeah, sure.
And this is also might be the first time that the viewer, and if you're listening, we can describe it, but that the viewer's seeing the UI for the first time on custom agents. Because
Mm.
I remember when I first got access to custom agents and I saw this UI, I was like, what the heck is going on? So what is going on, Tim?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, they're still in beta, so there is a chance that this will change
Yeah.
before release. And it's changed quite a bit as we've been playing with it. But what you have is the ability to chat with the AI. So you can have a conversation with this custom agent and it knows about itself and it knows about what you've given it access to and its instructions and its history. So this morning I was having a chat with this other one saying, I thought you should have got triggered by something that I asked you to do. Why
Right.
didn't you? And then we kind of went back and forth about that. So I think the chat section is really important. I didn't sort of appreciate it when I first started because I hadn't really thought too much about chatting with the agents about themselves. But actually, that's something that you do quite a lot when you're trying to hone the instructions. So there's
Oh,
a
yeah.
chat section, there's this recent activity section. And so this is explaining to you when it's last run and like what it was that triggered it. So you
Mhm.
can see I've had a busy morning here. I already had 3 meetings and after each meeting, the agent's been triggered and it's run. And so you can click on these and it will open up and show you like what happened in that call, not the call itself, but in this case, like it's describing the actions that the AI took and the work
Nice.
that it did. Yeah, which is really like in terms of getting a log and being able to see what's happened, it's very
Right.
easy to audit what these things have gone and done. And if we have a look up here, this is the sort of settings pane. And so these are the triggers. So if you've ever built automations before, you'll know that you have to set some sort of trigger, the thing that kicks it off, and then kind of the resulting actions that it takes. And so that's how this page works. It kind of flows from top to bottom. So there's a whole range of triggers.
Nice.
You can set them up to run periodically, like, every this many hours or days or weeks or months or years. You can have triggers that happen as a result of the app itself. And that's what I've done here. I've just got a property on my meeting notes where I tick it and then the agent will run. So you can either, have it set up so that you have to do something, sort of a human in the loop step to say, I want it to happen like this, or you can set it to happen automatically. So the Notion app, it could be it changes status, or at the end of the day, it looks back and it looks at all the meetings that have happened on that day and kind of runs them. There's also integrations that are very new. I'm not sure if they're going to be available at launch or not, but to do with Notion Calendar and Notion Mail. And those are incredibly powerful because our calendaring worlds and our email worlds are still like a very large part of our digital footprint. And so, I'm capturing emails that I send out and filing them in appropriately. I'm capturing people's names and email addresses and connecting them to the right company. It's kind of being really able to be a CRM in a way that Notion hasn't before, in an automated way. And then you can trigger things via Slack as well. So messages that get sent to Slack, or, when someone does like an emoji reaction, or you mention a bot, or it's pretty cool what it can do. And I think that's going to grow. We're going to see a lot more apps appear in here as triggers to these agents. Then, of course, you got your instructions. So I'm cheating in this one because I don't have all the instructions here. I'm actually referencing my playbook. And the reason I'm doing that is because when it's automated, I just want it to run this, but I want it to use the same set of instructions. But sometimes I'm just chatting with the AI and I say, okay, we've had this conversation. You now have this extra context about what I was thinking about that call. You can see the transcript right there. Now run the meeting follow-up. And so, they're working off the same set of instructions, but I don't get the custom agent to do it. I get my personal assistant to do it. And then this is a key thing that I think for a lot of people just takes a little moment to get your head around. And that is you have to give this custom agent permissions to the different services and pages in Notion that you want it to be able to access. So out of the box, it can't see anything. It can't do anything. You have to allow it to. And so you can see here what I've done. I've given it access to that meeting follow-up playbook. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to read the instructions I'm referencing. It can edit the content in my meetings pages. It can make me tasks. It can make client engagements for me. It can update my project statuses. These are all things that I want it to be able to do. I want it to be able to read my people database so it can see the humans that were in the meeting and where they come from and other interactions I've had with them. It looks at things like proposals that are sitting in my filing cabinet database. So there's a lot of thinking about where does this agent need to do its work? What does it need to be able to see? And then in here, you can say it can view it, it can comment on it. It's really interesting having agents working in your workspace, making comments on pages.
Yes.
Quite a powerful sort of useful thing. Or you can get it to be able to edit as well. And then, of course, you can connect it to other apps. So this is not just the triggers, but are these custom agents going to be able to do other work, not just in Notion, but in other spots? And so you can get it to talk to people in Slack or use these other tools. There's a whole bunch of new things in here that I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
That maybe, Jerwin, you're even going to have to blur out because I don't know if they're all there. But pretty interesting to see where this might go. You can imagine Notion sort of, becoming the sort of central brain that does a whole bunch of work in other worlds.
Of course.
That you have.
Like you see HubSpot there, it's like the sales world, or to the Figma, to the product design, to all these different, and you saw Wiz there for security. So question with this,
very interesting,
Tim, that the audience might have is, I see when you were going through permissions, and I'm thinking from a lens of the mid-market to enterprise worlds, you wouldn't want someone or a team having access to create an agent that can edit big properties. And I saw that when you went to your people viewpoints, you had a blurred out on that can edit. Is there a way for an admin of these to just do can view across the whole workspace permissions for certain users on a Notion account? because I think this would be a big thing within these custom agents, right? Because
Yeah.
you've
So
just
there's multiple levels of permission at play
Mhm.
that we need to think through. So one of them is, what permissions does the agent have?
Yes,
So what can it do? What can it see? What can it edit?
yes.
And then there is who can see the agent and use the agent.
Mhm,
So that's a separate set of permissions that are about users' access to that agent.
mhm.
And it's quite different from the nosy personal assistant because it just has your permissions.
Yeah.
Whatever you can do, it can do. And whatever you can see, it can see.
Mhm.
But this is very much, you set these up as individual little workers and they have both their own permissions and then you can give access to other people. So you can see this meeting follow-up one.
Mhm.
I am the only one in my workspace that can see
See
it
it.
or use
Right.
it in any way.
Yeah.
So if Jay or any of the rest of the team want to use it, it's just not there for them, just
Mhm.
how all the rest of the Notion permissions work. But like Jerwin, if I wanted to add you in, then I could add you and then I can give you levels of permission.
That is
So I,
very, very cool. Wow.
yeah, very helpful
Yeah.
because as you'll probably see, I think it will alert us here. If I give you permissions to this agent and I've given this agent permissions to private things of mine,
I will have
then
therefore, I
by
would have access, right?
extension, you will be able to use the agent that can do those things. So it doesn't transfer the permissions to you. Suddenly you can't see all my email or whatever
I can Yeah.
if this agent was doing email, but it means that you can use the agent and that agent can do things in that world. So by
Yeah.
extension, you will be able to touch and see things that you shouldn't be able to
So that's
standard
good for
permissions
teams to
wise.
think about, definitely, right? Because even though therefore I don't
Massive.
have access, and I know I'm not like this, Tim, but I could ask meeting follow-up, hey, how many meetings did Tim have yesterday? And Tim, you wouldn't know, but I would know, but I don't want that. I wouldn't want that. So I think me coming from a cybersecurity lens is
Mm,
always be careful with permissions. And it's good that you showed this, Tim, because it sort of broadens those capabilities of like what to think about as your organization onboards custom
yeah.
agents and rolls it out. Like what are the governments and R&Rs needed to have confidence
Yeah.
in this, because it's a whole different ballpark now. Like
There's a lot to think about here. Yeah.
naming conventions and permissions for your custom. Like how many? Hey, like you have 5 custom agents working for you. What do they have access to? It becomes this whole.
Yeah. 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 I think small teams are going to be at big advantage because they will be able to, be flexible and
Of
iterate more
course, yes.
quickly. In a bigger context, thinking through how to use this is going to be more challenging, but the
Yeah.
tools are here to help manage it. I think it's worth just noting you can give people sort of varying levels of access. So can view and interact, you can use it, but you can't mess with it.
Hmm.
So you can't change how it works, which I think is really important because, Notion introduced can edit content database permissions, I don't know, probably a couple of years ago now. But before that, you were able to build tools and then change how they work live while people were using them. This is the
Chaotic.
same thing. So you
Yeah.
can view it and interact with it, but you can't edit it. You can edit it. And then, of course, full access means that you can share it with others. That's kind of the key distinction there. Anyway, you're out, mate. No access for you.
Wow. Wow.
Uh, you can pick the model, which is really useful. And I always use Claude Opus at the moment anyway. And then I haven't actually played with this, but, when it's accessing the web, you
Allow
can
list
kind of
URL.
turn on or off web access. But also, yeah, you can allow list particular URLs. So it can be helpful. And I think we're going to see these security type, features grow a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe just some other examples of things I'm doing with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very cool. Like when I'm working with clients, the use cases that we dream up for these custom agents very quickly they're so powerful. They're going to be really transformative and it's going to change how people work massively. Some things we're doing in-house are we're trying to, I'm a little bit obsessed, quite obsessed with bringing context into the Notion workspace so
Yeah.
that our AI and our team has access to as much information about what we're doing and cuts down on, double handling and all the rest of it. The AI is so much smarter when it fully understands what's going on in a project. So for me, key context, environments are email, meetings, and then chat, like Slack conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So we built this Slack channel context that what it does is every 4 hours, it goes through all the projects in our workspace that are active and finds their Slack channels and has a look at their Slack channels and sees if there's been new commentary in the last 4 hours.
Oh.
And if there has, then it has a look at the client engagement database, which is a database we use to sort of track, conversation with or about the client and the project. And then it updates that. So if it's a new thread of conversation, it'll put a new entry in. If it's an existing one, it'll just add to it. But it means that when you chat to the AI about the project, it knows everything that's gone on in Slack.
Right, yeah.
And we do the same thing for email. So it's all capturing email, either based on every message I send, it has a look and says, do we know who this person is? Here's Matteo, who's on the podcast next. I've sent him an email. It looks in my people database and says, do we know what this email address is? Yeah, we do. Which projects that's connected to? Okay, it's connected to the Insurgents project. So it creates a client engagement, with the context of that email against that project. And so I'm not doing any of this manual logging of emails. It just all happens in the background, and our projects, suddenly have this much more context. And then obviously the meetings that we were looking at before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very powerful at collecting context. I'm using it to spin up calendar entries, like new meetings. Someone books a call with me and the AI goes away and has a look. Do we know this person? Are they in the database?
Wow.
Yes or no? If they're not,
Qualifying.
it adds them, it brings them in to start with. And so, make sure that we've got people's email addresses and company information and whatever, but then it sets up the meeting notes. And my next little experiment is to try and work out if I can get the AI to give me a bit of a sense of what should be on the agenda for that call. I haven't played with that yet, but I think from all of the rest of that context,
Yeah,
it should actually be able to have
out.
a guess at, this is probably what this meeting is about.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's obviously using the calendar integration where I've got my Google Calendars connected to Notion Calendar, and so it can see. So if a meeting's made, if it's updated, if it's deleted, it goes and it adjusts it, accordingly. So my internal meetings database is now perfectly in sync with my Google Calendar, and there's sort of no friction. When I look at my list of things to do for the day, all the meetings are kind of set, the right people are in them, away we go.
That's fantastic.
That's a lot.
That was just a very speed run of what you're doing, but in a way that's sort of showing.
There's a heap more, but I'm conscious that we might be blowing up people's brains trying to.
No, that's good.
It's all this.
It's good, but it's also like it's much needed with custom agents being so new, and to see you sharing all of this in real time is fantastic. I have a question in terms of these agents. How much? Because you mentioned with your playbooks, it was like you need to hack it down at least 4 to 5 times. How much time are you spending supervising or questioning, or like again going onto these chat and questioning it and changing the agent's instructions? How much time are you spending, I guess, a day nurturing them, or is that more so that they're just running wild themselves?
I think one of the shifts that's going to happen for people is we're going to start realizing that these agents are quite similar to employees. They're set up, you give them some instructions, you say, this is what your job is. And then you check in on them from time to time. Sometimes they reach out to you and say, hey, something's wrong. What do I do about this? Other times you notice that maybe they've missed something that you wanted them to do. And so there is a relatively regular process of kind of checking in. Now, I've noticed after a couple of months, some of them, I don't need to talk to them at all. They're just doing their thing and it works really well. But yeah, there is, especially in the early stage, this kind of back and forth. And interestingly, at first, I think your reaction is often, oh, like stupid thing. Why isn't it doing what I want it to do? But what I've learned pretty quickly is that it does what I tell it to do. And so if it's a stupid thing, it's because I haven't given it the right instructions, I haven't given it the right access or haven't prompted it correctly. And so I think key skills that we're all going to learn are how do you set these things up? How do you think through the processes?
Yeah.
How do you be a good manager of agents? It's going to be a key part of how we all do our work into the future.
Yeah. Yeah. I think with like what you just said is now that we've got custom agents here, the bar of quality used to be here. But now with custom agents, to learn a prompt better and become more of a, like think more strategically, now the bar's like up here all of a sudden. Because do you find much when you're having these calls with your partners or your clients, do you find like the levels of the conversations are a lot more engaging. It's like, oh, how does Tim remember all this?
I'm certainly able to do a lot more than I could before.
Yeah.
I think I think it's mostly the removal of the sort of busy work overhead. Like,
Yes.
you have a call with someone or like this, right? We're talking for an hour. You're right in the midst of the conversation. You're solving problems or
Mm.
you're really engaging. And there's a little bit of your brain that's thinking, oh, shit, I have to remember that I said I was going to do that or
Yeah.
where is this project ending up? That was always the reality of being in a meeting,
Mhm.
or getting an email or, having a Slack thread. There was this, you're in it, you got to do the work and then you got to do the sort of the work around it.
Mhm.
What I've noticed for myself is I'm able to manage a lot more because the work around the times when I'm in doing the work is being done for me. And I've now got it to a point where I really trust it.
Mm.
So I never have to come out of a call and quickly remember to scribble some things down or jot my thoughts down quickly before sort of they're forgotten because I
Mm.
trust that the agent is, I've worked with it to such a point as it's doing a better job than I did of remembering what I needed to do in a call.
Mhm.
And it is always updating the project context, which I used to want to do, but never really followed through consistently.
Yeah.
So I think that means that the quality of my work's better. I'm more present and available when I'm working on things
Mhm.
because I don't have all this other stuff going on in my head. Oh, I've got to remember to do this,
Oh,
that, or
I've got
the
to
other
write that
thing.
down. Oh, I'm gonna send this out. Yeah.
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 Yeah. The cognitive load associated with that sort of stuff is much diminished.
Mhm.
And I think that's why people used to have PAs, right? But I just can't imagine ever needing or wanting to have a human try and do that for me now that we've got,
I mean,
this kind of technology that is so close.
you do have a PA though. His name's Al.
That's right. It's exactly right. Yeah. The
Shout out
custom
to Al.
agents has taken that to another place again because I don't have to talk to Al to get him to do the things that I want to do. Whereas
Yeah.
before I was spending a lot more time in the AI chat. Can you follow up and do this? Can you qualify this lead? Could you write that proposal? Could you do this thing? Now I just jump in there for a sort of certain, specific debrief or need that I have that I haven't yet automated.
Mm.
Yeah. Some of the things that I think we do, like this early stuff that I was talking about, was really a lot about capturing context.
Mhm.
But there's a few processes that we have that used to take a bunch of time, like manual sort of setup time, like an admin job, like setting up a new client. And
Mhm.
so this is one of the workflows, and I just think about what's the value of this. This is one of those workflows that previously we would have spent a bunch of time every day doing. And now we don't think about, just happens in the background and it's automatically done and there for us. So,
Mhm.
we're a consulting agency, so we get kind of new inquiries coming in from a range of different sources.
Yes.
And this was a playbook or still is a playbook, but this kind of execution is, we get an email from a certain email address or we apply a label to an email, or we get a web-based form inquiry
Mhm.
and it goes and grabs that information and then kind of executes this pretty lengthy process of working out, do we know who this person is? Yes or no, update them or, add them new if they don't. Do we know who the company is? Add the project, put a client engagement that explains what the project's about, run the process to qualify a lead, do all this sort of work and thinking to set them up so they're in our pipeline and the tasks to follow them up in a couple of days will get created. All of that stuff is all just there and automatic. And so I think that's the kind of opportunity for a lot of companies where it was someone's job to do this manual thing that was pretty annoying about
Oh yeah.
moving data from multiple other systems and then putting it in this one spot. This is a great example for us where it just happens
Yeah.
and it's done better than I used to do it when I did it manually.
Mhm. Mhm.
Something similar is probably this project state updater. So, a lot of the clients that we work with, they will say, hey, at the end of the week or the end of the quarter, we got to provide report to management about how all these projects are going. Now, I don't have that, but I do have, I guess, a team of people that we're working on these projects and I want people to be able to quickly and easily see where things are up to. And so this just works through the current projects, looks at the meeting notes and tasks and emails and Slack threads and whatever, and updates the project to say, this is where it's at. So every time you go into a Notion project, you know that, sometime in the last 24 hours, the current status has been updated and you're probably getting the kind of latest view of it. So I think we use this in a pretty simple way, but for a bunch of our clients and for lots of other people, they're going to see all kinds of potential on this. Yeah, go through and do this reporting piece for me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at all of these like new client jobs from like a lead gen perspective to project state updater. It's sort of you've all of a sudden created this solution of, well, you've created these two new employees essentially. One's like
Yeah.
a program manager, which is basically this one where you've prompted it, this eligibility, which projects the process, and all of those stuff is very manual. Like, how much time do you think? And I know it's quite subjective. How much time do you think you've saved by setting this up? Can you
Mm.
measure it?
Yeah, I don't know. And the reason I don't know is because I would love to have done this before, but I didn't.
Oh, right. So,
Like keep all the projects up to date. So I think, yeah, there's sort of two things that are going. One is it saves you time because you don't have to do some things that you did have to do before, but
mhm,
also it allows you to improve the overall quality of what you're doing because it runs processes that you should have done, but you didn't do.
mhm,
And I think in organizations where they've got areas of compliance,
mhm.
this is really useful because, a lot of the time I was building systems for people, helping them work out, are we compliant here? Has this been done? How can
Yeah,
I be sure that the humans who work here have followed this process accurately? Whereas now with these custom
you've
agents,
got
you
the
can
process
say,
mapped out here.
hey,
Yeah, it's
a robot's
fantastic.
doing it and they're pretty reliable and they'll whinge at me if something went wrong.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
The
Yeah, I'm
the prompting piece is really kind of interesting too. I was just looking at this. You must be reliable, boring, and accurate. No
no
fluff.
fluff.
Like you kind of you get a sense after a while of how you need to talk to it to get the results that you want.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and yeah, that improves over time.
I mean, I would say to our listeners, like, and to our viewers, if you're viewing it and listening to this, this is the best in class format or structure. Like, Tim, thank you so much for sharing this. Like, this is just a whole different level in terms of where I've seen people use not just custom agents, but how they sort of systematize and scale like their operating systems of their brain, of their organization's brain. Like, this is very
Yeah.
revolutionary stuff, and it's sort of, for me, I want to get to this level where it's sort of you're thinking things at such a high strategic level, right? And then when you go down to each of these custom agents, as you said, like, how they're prompted is quite different. Like, this one has to be boring, no fluff, whereas the other one, which customer is it? Al? Al has the capabilities to swear at you. Like,
Al, he's my mate. I hang out with him a lot. If he doesn't speak in a way that I feel comfortable with, it's just going to be weird. Yeah, I mean, we've been fortunate that we've spent most of the last decade helping people think about the systems
yes.
and processes of their business. And this is such a level up for exactly that. Like, it's sort of come along and I'm scratching my head thinking, this is amazing. Like, this is such a value add to all the work that we've done before. So we
That's
were very well placed to make the most of it, which is great. And then, I mean, I use a lot of different tools, not just Notion, but Notion's implementation of AI,
mhm.
I think it's true to form in the sense that they've always been trying to give us the Lego blocks to
Yes.
do our best work. And this is the AI Lego blocks, to add into the mix of all the other ones. So
Yeah.
I want to share this one because this is a experiment that has been really fun and
Tim's
has
concept.
actually made the experience of using my personal AI much, much better. So we might have to blur some of this out as we go. Let's just see what we bump into here. But what I've done is I've said to the AI, to this custom agent, every night you can see it runs at 3:15. Go through and have a look at my projects, tasks, meetings, client opportunities, look in my inbox, anything to do with Tim, me,
Mhm.
look at my Google calendars. It looks at my email. And, it's got a whole bunch of kind of rules about how it all works, but it's gathering context about what's happening for me, what happened for me yesterday and what's coming up for me today. And then it's filling out a page. So this looks really nerdy, but the AI wrote it all. So half the time I'm scrolling through it thinking, hang on, what's going on here? But it's building context about my time and my day, so that this is the bit that will be interesting to see how much we need to blur, but
Ooh.
it puts a page together every day at 3:15 in the morning that says, okay, this is Tim's calendar for the day. And so this is what today looks like for me. These are
Yeah.
the things that were in my calendar. And then it looks at my task list and it
Wow.
says these are all the tasks that he has due. It knows I want to get my email to inbox 0.
Box
And
zero.
so it looks at all the items in there and
Yeah.
says, hey, this one is like a week old. He's obviously struggling with this, and so it makes notes about, the different emails that are sitting in there, and it breaks them up into, oh, these are inquiries and this is to do with a client thing. And, it kind of, so it works through it all so that it has enough ambient context that when I'm chatting with it, because my personal instructions for Al
Mm-hmm.
reference this page.
Right.
And it says, look, you don't have to talk about it all the time, but this is what's going on for Tim. And so what I've found since I did this, so it's got things about stuff that's happened. It's got things about what I'm working on, current projects, things I'm working on in the business, things I'm working on like
Big
with
rocks.
clients,
Yeah.
opportunities. There's a heap of content in here, maybe a little bit too much. And we'll definitely need to blur this, but this is super useful. This section, this recent texture, what
Yeah.
it does is it goes through my meetings
Mm-hmm.
and it pulls out, it's like exact quotes in here of
Oh,
conversations that
that's
I've had.
fantastic. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, here we go. Nick Tucker, the podcast episode that we did last week.
Last week. Yeah.
It's pulled a conversation about AI transforming consulting and Nick's core thesis. And it, in quote, it describes kind of what Nick said. And then Tim resonated with this. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like building a picture of what my relationships look like. And I'm finding now that it has this, I'll be chatting with Al about a proposal for another client or whatever, and it will reference a meeting that I had 3 or 4 days ago. It's like, how, because normally AI is stateless, right? It doesn't
Of
know
course. Yeah.
anything other than just the conversation that you're in
Stays
or the
within the
context
yeah.
you're giving it. But because of this, and so this recent texture, it fades like a real memory. And so within 2 weeks, those things drop off. But it
Mhm.
goes through these meetings and says, that looks like a really chunky, useful bit of context. We're going to add it in. And then it has some stable facts about kind of me and my life more broadly so that it knows where I live and stuff like that. So yeah, but every night this page gets rebuilt by the custom agent to change my experience of working with the personal assistant.
Based on obviously the meetings that you've had, the customers that come in, the context,
Yeah.
it changes dynamically. So do you say there's no historical view once that page is updated?
Yeah. It updates every day and I don't know what it had on it yesterday because it doesn't matter. Like I never look at that page. It's just
That's also okay.
there for the
Yeah.
AI to say,
Yeah.
this is what happened for him yesterday. This is what's happening tomorrow. Here's a little bit about what the last couple of weeks have looked like. That's it, So that's been really fun and it's quite useful. It's been quite powerful, but just sort of experimenting with how can we get beyond the AI not really having a broader understanding of, what's going on for the person who's using it.
Yeah. I've got this question for you, Tim. It's something that I've been questioning as well is with custom agents, AI in general, but the ability to offload so many of the the time consuming tasks and they can think more strategically. Do you find that you're doing more now and you're taking on more work, but then there's that balance of because custom agents are helping you so much, you're scaling quicker and you're taking on more work. Does it become more stressful in that sense? Because all of a sudden your one's capability, and then this goes into like that concept where people are building, like, I don't know who said it, but there can be like 3 to 5 person billion dollar company now.
$1 billion company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find that though, that stress?
Smooth Ops is not going to make it. We're not going to be there.
Hey, you can't think like that.
No,
But
I'm
yeah,
not
it's
interested in that.
that output now. We can do so much more if you think strategically and high level. What you're doing
Yeah.
is
I
like,
don't think it's more stressful. I guess it sort of goes to where does stress come from?
yeah,
What is it that's stressful? It's not the volume necessarily of the work that you're doing. I think
mhm.
stress comes from unclosed loops.
Yes,
Stress comes from situations that you don't have the time to think through and make a decision about,
mm,
or you don't have the awareness to make a good decision about. You're kind of rushed and you pushed into a corner and you're not sure what to do about it.
mhm.
But I think what I have been finding is that the extra mental bandwidth that using these tools has given me
Mm-hmm.
means that probably my stress level is lower, even though I'm doing a lot more.
Yeah.
And when I come across something that is complicated and difficult, I've got a great thinking partner that has a
Yeah.
lot of context that helps me kind of process it. So yeah, I would say the stress is a lot lower than it had been previously because I've got systems that are helping me manage it.
It's fantastic. That's we spoke about this with Nick is you as a consultant, Tim. Now we're approaching this new world within the consulting space, but then also within one's reality to share and help people at scale now. Like the more people you bring in, it's like you can now focus on them in the conversations and capture all that context. Whereas before, when you spoke to more people without these custom agents or the all listening in, like you'd have to
Yeah.
literally remember all these things, write them down, and then when
Yeah.
more interest
Yeah.
comes into, hey, can you help me with this? It's like all of a sudden this all this knowledge that you sort of had to process yourself, and
Yeah,
now
which is a huge load to carry, right? You just tap out because of your capacity. And I think that's what's happening is these things can extend our capacity.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we end it there, or wait? Actually, I'll show you. I'll give you a little demo of what I've been using it for my um marketers listening or
Dude.
product peeps. I'll share my window here, which we spoke about earlier, which is the meeting triage that I sort of created, and has been super helpful. To that context we just spoke about is I can now hone in the conversation of what's happening in the meeting, and obviously I tell to the disclosure of Notion is I let people know that I'm recording the meeting always, but these are internal meetings, so it's sort of to be expected. But I sort of created a Trust on Cloud meeting triager, and essentially, if I go here, you can see it triggered an hour ago when I was talking to Tim just for this demo. But my triggers are basically when a page is created in this meetings database, I have a trigger that sort of captures the Trust on Cloud conversations every day at 5 p.m. after I finish. That's sort of the trigger point for me. I used to do it after the meetings, but I haven't set out in a way that I was happy with, so I just kept it at a timescale trigger. And then overview here, I didn't use your playbook method though. I think that's very clever how you reference your playbook. And so I think post this episode, I'm going to go back and be like, okay, let's align all these custom agents to all these different areas of playbooks that I sort of have in my
I
AI
think if you
agent
want to use
database.
them in both ways,
Yeah.
like if you want to be able to call it directly and have the custom agent and then follow exactly the same process,
Yeah.
then it's
Yeah.
worthwhile doing.
Do you find that that's better practice to do that? Because it's like a triple layer, right? Because you got the playbook, which references the data maps, which the data maps is the first layer, and then you've got the playbook, and then you've got the third
Yeah.
layer, which is the AI custom agent.
Yeah, you never miss anything.
Yeah, I mean,
I
you're
think the
giving it three.
difference sometimes,
Yeah.
so like the custom agent, you point it at the things that you want it to understand and know about.
Mm-hmm.
But my experience in meetings is sometimes it's all very straightforward and you just finish the call and go and make a coffee and then
Mm-hmm.
let the agent do its thing. But other times I'll come out of a meeting and there'll be something I'm thinking about, worried about,
Mm-hmm.
an idea that I want to flesh out a little bit further. And that's when I find OWL to be super useful
Yes.
because I'll
Okay.
come out of the call and I'll instantly say, what do you think about that? And OWL can see every other meeting and all the work I've done. So it's actually kind of useful. But then we'll go back and forth and I'll say, I'm worried about this piece. I don't think, the client has really thought through the implications of, the permissions or whatever it is that I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
And we'll have a conversation that adds a whole lot more context and more depth to the meeting. It's like the meeting after the meeting. So sometimes, I don't know if you did this, but like when I was working in a tech company, I was a project manager. I did a lot of work with the CEO and we always used to joke about you have the meeting before the meeting, then you have the meeting, then you have the meeting after the meeting.
Yeah.
The meeting itself, not much work happened in, but the meeting before and the meeting after, they were the really useful ones. And I have those with Al. I have a conversation before the call where I'm prepping and thinking about how I want this to go. Then I go into the call with the client and then I have the conversation with Al afterwards to say, well, we planned for this and we got that. Now what's next? When the meeting follow-up runs, if it can have all of that broader context, that's really useful. So
Of
those are the
course, yeah.
times where I trigger it manually as opposed to just rely on what the custom agent's going to give me.
Yeah, I mean, it's that human augmentation layer, right? Because
Yeah.
it would sort of generate tasks, but without the context of you talking to it and being like sharing your, what does it Nick Tucker say, the tacit knowledge that you have that the custom
Yeah.
agent will never have, which is like
Yeah.
you and your personal feelings and your gut,
Hmm.
which in a meeting perhaps AI agent can't capture that. It's
No, not always.
I think it's definitely something I will add to these instructions here, Tim. It's like
Mm.
in marketing we call those obviously the, like it happens a lot in events, but like in product calls, or when I was in the big tech company, um it was always a straight up call straight after that meeting. It's sort of a meeting after a meeting. It's like
Yeah.
I don't have to have that anymore. You just sort of type. Or I think you did it before, right? Like when I saw you, you just pulled out your phone and you were just talking to your AI agent. And you just spoke the words into the
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
the
I
page.
get a few strange looks. Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah. I've taken to using the, you know, audio transcription tools a lot. Like I
hmm
have a shortcut on the Mac and it just means that I just speak
hmm
and then it gets transcribed and then yeah, it's quicker for me to get it out of my head that way. It feels like a more natural exchange and then obviously read quicker than the
mm
AI could speak back to me, so I don't need to talk.
hmm
But that's helped a lot too. There's actually something in my instructions that says you might find weird typos because someone's transcribing Tim's Australian accent
That's
and
that,
trying to work out what on earth he's saying.
mate. That's an awesome way to that's a bloody fair dinkum great way to process knowledge. You just be like after a call, hey, I just had this podcast chat with Tim.
Gonna need to give Al like a little glossary of Australianisms, help him
Yeah.
make sense of what I'm saying. Yeah. Yeah, good one. Well, I was thinking, I don't think we've given people a copy of the playbook
hmm
template. I think we've given them a copy of the personal instructions, but in the lead up to custom agents, if people don't have them yet, I feel like writing playbooks for your existing AI is kind of what you end up having to do with the custom agents. Like you build these sort of steps of instructions. So maybe in the show notes this week, the gift, the takeaway thing for people could be that template to about how to build your own playbooks.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely necessary because like once you create the playbooks, they can sort of just, you create custom agents the way that you did, Tim, and you just reference that playbook and then tweak it a little bit. And so that those instructions on the custom agent, you don't really have to do it because you've already thought about it through the playbook, right? Yeah. Well, Tim, thank you so much. This has been a great non-guest episode. Oh, all right, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you download that playbook just down here in the show notes. Bloody well done, Tim. Thank you so much, mate, for showing us the custom agents that you've been using. Do you have any closing thoughts for the audience?
Not after that. No, I don't know what to say now. I'm speechless.
All right, guys, make sure you smash that like button, give us some feedback, and if you have any questions with custom agents, don't be afraid to reach out to me or Tim. Probably Tim. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.